So the other night, we were talking about the Portland Trailblazers, and we said we were sure it was going to happen to us at some point in time. We just didn't think it would be the next night, but it did. We score 141. We allow 141. We get blown out in Sacramento. We're talking about it next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So if Sacramento plays Portland, Sacramento wins by 90? Is that how this works? David Locke along with Ron Boone here for POSTCAST. Utah Jazz lose to the Sacramento Kings 141-97. So 2 nights after we did this show talking about how dreadful Portland looked, how much DeAndre looked like he quit, and we both said, well, it might happen to us at some point this year. It happened 48 hours later. We didn't quite realize it would be that soon afterwards. By the way, hopefully the audio is all right tonight. We've had some issues. We're doing it a little bit of a backwards way, so if you please let me know how you're feeling about it on the chat room. You guys are always so helpful to that. So, Ron, the first quarter is really pretty good. It's 26-23. The Jazz are down 3. Their offense is not good at that point. Their defense is pretty good. The offensive rating at the end of the first quarter is a 96 for Sacramento, which is pretty darn good but for them. The Jazz is only 85. That's pretty bad. We've kept them out of transition. We've done a lot of things right. Feels like, all right, we're going to battle. We were close here last time. And then we allow 36 in the second, 43 in the third, and 30-something in the fourth. Just a defensive breakdown, or what happened?
I think it was our fault because we were criticizing Herter, we were criticizing Murray. They have not been shooting the basketball very well. 29% each from the three-point line. And Herter's second quarter, if I remember correctly, was probably best of the, somewhere in there. But they end up shooting the three so well tonight that the Jazz just didn't have an answer. So
were we criticizing them? Or were we pointing out that Kevin Herter in wins shoots 51% from the field and 42% from three, and in losses shoots 30% from the field and 12% from three? And tonight he went 10 of 14 and 6 of 9. So if he does that, they win.
Yeah. That's why I think, as we talked about it before, their numbers say one thing, their record says another. And as you pointed out, then those two guys just might be the problem right now. I think the backcourt is great. You got 2 guys that played together in college that are in the backcourt and still getting the job done. And obviously Sabonis is probably the key to making this engine go. But those 2 guys must shoot the basketball better.
No, I mean, Sacramento's really kind of mysterious. They came in 11-13. Their differential was +2 almost, which means they would be on pace for being, about a 47 win, should be about a 47 win team. They're 8th best offense, 13th ranked defense. They should be on all their numbers, everything about them indicate a much better basketball team than their record. This is only going to make it worse because their numbers are going to have a 44-point win on their side. But they have not been able to link performances this year. They obviously now started home stretch of 9 games of their next 11 at home, and they started off in style tonight.
And they struggle at home.
Right? They lost 4 or 5.
Yeah.
From a Jazz standpoint, do you think just not having enough offense tonight led them to just fall apart defensively?
There are some times when your offense needs to carry your defense. Most times your defense set the presence for your offense. I'm one of those guys that like the offense to generate excitement and guys getting into themselves and wanting to and doing the right things out there. But boy, with this young basketball team the Jazz have and not used to playing together, and when they're out there on the floor, especially that second quarter, you can just see the struggles. Just can't get it done, and all of a sudden you're playing uphill.
Lowry started the night 0 for 3 from 3. Just really didn't feel like he had much of any room tonight to do anything, and he is kind of the key cog to the offense. Collins started very awkwardly. It was a weird night for Collins. I felt like every shot he took was kind of out of rhythm and out of system, if you use a volleyball term. Early, was that something the Kings were doing defensively? I mean, I will share this. I'm not utterly surprised the Kings were really good defensively tonight, because Mike Brown pretty much throughout the whole press conference, every time someone wanted to talk offense, he was like, why are you talking offense? Our offense is fine. Our problem is defense. He came in very well prepared, too. He came in basically saying, well, like someone wanted to bring up about three-point shooting, and he was like, Orlando and Houston are worst three-point shooting teams and have a better record. How are they doing it?
Yeah.
They're doing, like, he came prepared to prove his point. The defense is what mattered. He clearly been hounding his team about it as well.
Yeah, and you could just see he was getting upset too, and because his voice just continued to rise as he was explaining and trying to get his point across. But his point is definitely, well taken. This team is much better than their record. I think the offense of this team is very, very explosive, and the Jazz right now are not good. And I'm putting it tastefully, trying to say that they're just not good. They're not going to be consistent with young basketball teams like this. You're going to have one game where everything is going well, and then games like tonight where you just can't put anyone's fire out. Now, get it back to Laurie. Laurie played in a crowd tonight, and he just could not get going offensively. And Will left him in the ball game in the first quarter and changed his rotation, the way he usually rotates him. And I thought he played in the crowd. John Collins there as well.
What's interesting is, we're not a team that's going to win a lot of games. And so you have to, what are your victories? They're very hard to find. It's often sometimes takes us talking to the coaching staff after a game to kind of get what their victories were on the night. I would say I think the last 5 to 7 games has been a victory for Keyonte George. I don't know enough about the game from a coaching standpoint, so I may find out that he was horrendous defensively. He was really quite good defensively the other night. But I would say just from a visual standpoint, Ron, I like the way he's playing. I feel like he's playing 35 minutes where he lets the game come to him. He's not always going to take the most shots. He did tonight, but he didn't take a bunch of shots where you're like, what do you do? Maybe 1 or 2 where I was like, but not a lot. He wasn't, I don't know what his turnover number was tonight, but it didn't feel like he was getting himself into trouble. He had 3 turnovers. He's going to have 3 turnovers. Like, he's just young. He had 7 assists. I really, certainly it helps when you go 3 of 6. I maybe most like the fact he shot 6 free throws. Like, when you try to live on just jumpers, it's too hard in this league.
Right.
So I really like a lot of the things, if we want to talk about little victories, that I'm seeing out of Keyonte George for the last 5 or 7 games.
He's turned the corner from what we saw at the beginning of the year. And shot selection, it's like, remember, he was like he was playing probably a little bit more ISO ball early in the year. And I think he had a long conversation with Will about how he wants him to play, get him a chance to play off the ball in his natural positions where he can come off screens. I'm very impressed with him coming off of screens and going to his right and making shots. I don't know if you know how it was difficult for me, because if you're going to your right and having to shoot going to your right, you got to turn and square your shoulders. These players are getting nowadays where, they square their shoulders while they're in the air and knocking down shots. Whereas when I grew up, you had to turn, square your shoulders, and then get that shot off. So he's doing a wonderful job of doing that. And 14 shots tonight. He ended up with 25 points.
That's crazy
shots.
Efficient.
That is so efficient. Yeah, absolutely.
Walker was the other one I thought had an okay night. I don't know if the coaches will agree.
Who's this?
Walker.
Yeah.
14 rebounds. He had to match minutes with Sabonis tonight, which, as I said on the broadcast, like, it's a little bit like saying, okay, you're going to get hit by a semi-truck like 100 times in a row, and let's see how you feel tomorrow morning. This is one where I think in the past he would have gotten bullied. I didn't think he got bullied. Sabonis made some shots. He always does. I didn't think he was part of the defensive problem. In fact, eye test, not coaching. Eye test to me is always so interesting. The minute he leaves the game and people go right to the rim. That's so interesting to me.
And you're absolutely right. But the big thing I think here is young players. I mean, every game there's a different player that does different things. There's a different, maybe a defensive scheme, and I think the coaching staff is trying to get away from that a little bit more. So you're doing pretty close to the same things every night. That way you don't make as many mistakes. I'm not really sure, but I know that with young players from game to game, and you're changing your defense because of certain players and what they do, it's awfully difficult.
All right, reliability squares tonight. Keyonte George, certainly.
I have 2. And
who's your second one?
Kessler.
Walker Kessler.
And
John Collins had a really nice stretch offensively, hit a bunch of threes.
Yeah.
So worth shouting out that John finished tonight 5 of 8 from 3, which is 1 short of his career high, and he's now well over 40%.
Give John 1 as well. I think I didn't see the 7 rebounds he had there. So.
All right, John Collins, Walker Kessler, Keyonte George, your reliability pluses tonight. On behalf of Ron Boone, I'm David Locke. Thanks very much for tuning in. Have a wonderful night. Appreciate you. We're off for a few days. We'll talk to you next Friday from Phoenix. That game is on the schedule, or from Salt Lake. That game's on the schedule, so you can go get tickets to that one. Go see the Suns as they come in. That's our only home game between now and December 28th. Talk to you soon. Thanks very much for tuning in. We appreciate you.